Dreaming reality. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Reconsidered, the podcast. I'm Riley Acree.
And I'm Ethan Eloquent.
And today we have our guest, Kyle Denis, on.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for having me.
So Kyle came on today to talk about the value of being an autodidact, which is basically a self-taught person, the value of being a self-taught person. But before we go into that, let's kind of get to know Kyle a little bit. You do a blog, right? It's called Funkadelic Threads.
Yeah, so I started Funkadelic Threads at the beginning of last year. I actually tried to launch it on January 1st, and it's kind of been morphing and changing into a few different things, but basically it's a hub for up-and-coming musicians, artists, and influencers around the Atlanta area. And really just trying to shed light on up-and-coming artists that may not be getting the love from Creative Loafing or these bigger sources, and really creating a community that we can all work together in. And the real mission behind it is to create a self-reliant community of young individuals and have everybody come together to create our own markets of creativity and really provide each other with the resources to be successful.
Cool. So it's like the next wave of Creative Loafing for Atlanta. It's
I'm kind of
similar, but Funkadelic Threads.
Right. Yeah, and so everything,
which is cool. I like that.
Kind of has a funky tinge to it. You know, we're not going to go with the status quo type of art or musical acts. And given my musical background, I've just met a lot of people in the artistic community and really felt that, you know, a lot of people's stories weren't being told. And, you know, I want Funkadelic Threads to be more than a medium for promoting like funky new threads and designs and features, like have like everything come together and culminate in communities around Atlanta and be the looking glass that allows patrons to peer into the underground of what's actually happening, you know, in the here and now.
It's really cool because this is actually a brainchild of this idea you had called Conscious Collective, which is an idea. It's collective conscious.
Collective conscious.
Okay,
because conscience versus conscious.
Conscious is just being aware and like being awake, right? The opposite of unconscious. Yeah. But collective
conscience,
like
spelled like con science, like with science.
Right.
That idea, it actually started back in the 1700s with this like French philosopher, but I don't want to get too deep into that conversation.
Not conscience, but specifically to collective conscience.
Is having the same set coming together and like you meet people. Let's say you go to a show or an art event and you end up having a great conversation with somebody, and you end up realizing that you may have never met each other. You may be from totally different backgrounds, but you have the same sort of outlook and set of beliefs, instead of, you know, what's right or wrong, and what you know, what is driving you.
Because you met in the same place.
Right. Well, you're more likely to have that. You kind of share the same headspace, the same thoughts, perspectives on things.
Yeah.
Which is
exactly.
Which is really cool when you know two people come together that have never met before. Like you actually, Riley and Kyle, you guys haven't really met before. And
this is my first day meeting Kyle. And we clicked through music too.
Yeah.
We both play music.
We've been hanging out for the past hour, and like I don't even talk. Like I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Ethan's just been in the corner of
I've just been hiding.
Kyle and I were like playing basketball outside. And
I hate it when my friends become better friends than like I would am with them.
Ethan saw that coming. He was like, "Damn it!
I knew I shouldn't have had Kyle on the show. He's gonna be better friends with Ryan and me."
No, it's okay. So you are a musician.
That's what it's about. Is really bringing people together and connecting people through whatever medium that you enjoy, and whatever, really bringing people together that are trying to pursue a certain dream or something that they love, whether it's podcasts, whether it's music, art,
any kind of creative endeavor.
Yeah, any kind of creative endeavor that you're really just going for, like, with all your heart and putting that effort in and putting a lot of time in, a lot of hours, and even a lot of times you earn money. I know like that with me, but you may not be getting the recognition that is sometimes very well deserved, and my goal is to go out and find those people that do deserve that.
So that's
really
cool because you
shed some light on that.
Yeah, and you're focusing on people. Like, you're not just focusing on your own projects, but you're focusing on other people's projects.
Exactly.
Highlighting other people's stories.
Yeah.
Similar to what we're doing. But instead of doing it through the medium of a podcast, you do it through
blogs,
articles, right? So I think something that's really cool.
So threads.
Threads. Yeah. So it's kind of like the email thread is like the closest thing, but it's really a blog thread.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on like a couple different social medias, but Facebook? You have a blog online, but Facebook is your main social media.
I have the blog through WordPress, and I had the blog even a little bit before Funkadelic Thread started. I started it around last year around this time, and then Funkadelic Threads came about as kind of like a brainchild, like as you're saying. But also I had been making T-shirts for my band at the time, King Coda, which we're looking for a drummer right now. If there's some drummers listening.
King Coda, looking for a drummer.
King Coda, what's your King Coda?
And so
that's a sick name.
Yeah, so making, we were making funky threads in the clothing aspect, and then also making threads in the blog article aspect, and the social media part. Tried to avoid it, realized you can't. So that started coming up in the past few months, and really. This is the first time I've really connected myself with Funkadelic Threads, because I kind of kept it as a separate indie and would tag the threads as Mr. Nobody from that really awesome movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but didn't want to exactly tell my friends. Wanted to try to see if this could be something that could get some buzz organically, and that. And see if my friends would catch on to it, even if I didn't tell them about it. And so once my friends started bringing up Funkadelic Threads to me, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I've been doing that for a while." And they'd be like, "Wait, that's you?" And then to awesome. Kind of check to see if the message was really getting across. And now that it has been getting a little bit of a buzz, I thought coming on here to talk about it would be really good.
Yeah,
get it out in the open.
So what was the last thing that you blogged about? What was the most recent blog you did?
So this Friday, actually, I got word of a little secret announcement from Voodoo Visionary.
They're a band, right?
And they're a local Atlanta band. They've been really on the rise this past year, and I've been friends with them for a while, and have played some shows with them. And Carl Denson and Jimmy Herring from Widespread Panic were playing a sold-out show at Terminal West Saturday. On Friday, Voodoo Visionary found out that they were going to be on the bill, and they lucked out and got this great opportunity, and told me first, because they knew that because I had written articles on them before, and so kind of got a jump on that, an exclusive on that piece of information, and got a little write-up going, kind of on the spot within an hour. Kind of put me to the test of, hey, can I be working and my 9 to 5 and get an article out during lunch before.
At that point, it's not so much about creating content, but documenting something as it's happening, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Another thing that you do besides just like going to bands and interviewing them or doing a write-up of their show or a review, you also did something cool. I think it was last week or the week before, but you went to a restaurant and did like a local ATL thing, like not a chain restaurant, but did like a write-up about that.
Yeah, so that was with Illegal Food, which started, I believe, in 2014, and I had been going to Illegal Food. It's in Virginia Highlands, I should say. Had been there a couple times, and then ended up talking to this lady, Lori, there a few times, and the third time we were like, "So are you the manager here? We seem to talk to you every time." It turns out she's the owner, and I was like, "Oh, well, we could shed some light on you guys because obviously I love this place. I've been hitting up these brunches for the past few weeks." So we went in and had Luke Armstrong take some photos. He got some really great shots, and I did a little bit of a promo for that. And that thread should be coming out next week, sometime, probably next weekend.
Sweet.
And give a little, do a little diddly on their brunch. They actually, it's hard to do write-ups about their specials because they sometimes change it on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's you can look on their website like where they get all their ingredients, all their meats, all their vegetables.
They do the whole local thing as much as possible.
It's local to the southeast, but mostly just helping other small businesses within their community of restaurants kind of self-sustain, so they know the people that they're buying from, like they're friends with them.
Right. That's really cool because that's kind of like what you're doing as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get local small groups some recognition and working with them and stuff.
Yeah.
So Riley, do you want to dive into our topic now?
Yeah. So basically, I just wanted to ask. So again, the topic is the value of being an autodidact, a self-taught person. You self-teach. So I mean, basically, how did you start to like think this way? Like, when did your brain start to rewire itself to be an autodidact?
I mean, really, I just came across this word like a few weeks ago. To be quite honest,
but you've been this way forever.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
I'd actually been listening to an NPR podcast, and then got me thinking, and I just kind of went on a tangent and started writing. And after looking up, it's a self-taught person, and I remember listening to another podcast talking about how being an amateur can be a beautiful thing. And it's just got me thinking that, all the greats were amateurs at one point, even savants, and it's okay to fail. And sometimes you learn the best lessons from those failures. And when you go back to when you take the time to go out and try something new, and then, whether it's successful or fails, if you take the time to sit and think and review it, like that's where you get a lot of like good life experience, I think, and I think like being an amateur can give you the gift of like virgin eyesight. Like a lot of times you'll get, if you go through a professional track, you're going to kind of have a one-track mindset, and many times you build up these paradigms on subjects that we learn about or society, kind of pushes on us. And you actually have to take a step back and realize that everything that we learn and pretty much everything that is taught to us was made up by some other man or woman before us. So, taking everything into perspective and being aware that, we don't know everything and it's impossible to, get to that level, but also like coming back to reality and saying, let me just go try something. Let me just take some action instead of just sitting back and thinking.
I like what you're saying there. Like, you don't have to be an enlightened person, or like you don't have to be a master of a subject to get started in it, right?
Yeah.
There's a saying that I like. You don't have to have a perfect plan, right? It's better to execute an unperfect plan than it is to never execute a plan because you're trying to make it perfect. Like another saying is, don't get paralysis by analysis, and not ever actually start. You know, you have to start whatever your endeavor is, whatever your creative endeavor, whatever your pursuit is. You have to take the first step, and it's okay to not know everything about that subject. It's okay, like for us, we don't have the best audio quality yet. You know, that's the best part about it, right? Because we're gonna get better equipment. You know, we're gonna get better at just handling these episodes. Like Riley and I are gonna be better co-hosts eventually. You know, me and Riley practiced these podcasts, or just doing podcasts for a couple months before we actually even came up with the idea to have Reconsidered.
Yeah.
And we had to get good at it.
And failure is not always like exactly what failure means. It could be a lot smaller, so to speak, and like has the potential to have greatness come out of it, you know? And I mean, we've definitely failed in those small ways just by like not knowing what to say during the practice podcast or anything like that. So that's how you become better at things, is through failure. And a lot of people know that, but a lot of people are also afraid of failure.
Mm-hmm. And so since they're afraid of it, they never actually start. Right? And so let's try and wrap it back around to being an autodidact. Mm-hmm. I have trouble saying that word, but
I know I was mispronouncing it.
Right, we were trying to figure out how to pronounce autodidact.
Anyway,
autodidact. So it's one of those things where you have to become an autodidact, to teach yourself. You have to actually start, right? You have to implement it. You know, you can't, and there is a balance of reading and researching, but until you start and actually experience it, you can never, look back and analyze and be like, okay, what could I have done better?
Right, and people that like teach themselves, with meaning autodidact, they don't even know they're an autodidact. They just know that they can teach themselves how to do something.
Right.
And I didn't know this word until today either, autodidact. I didn't even, but I've always known what self-taught means and the mindset that it requires to be self-taught is more of an amateur mindset in a way, like you were talking about earlier, as opposed to a professional mindset, because like we were saying, your professional mindset, you're afraid to take risks. You're afraid of risking your career. But when you have an amateur mindset, you're more prone to take those risks and allow yourself to set yourself up for potential failure.
It's all a learning experience, right?
So it's okay to be an amateur.
You have to take risks to grow.
And I think I've even heard like old Confucius sayings, the mind of the grasshopper or something to like that extent, to where it's like you want to keep a fresh mind and not close off doors that could potentially open you to a whole new world of possibilities.
Right. As soon as you say like, oh, I know this subject, that's when you stop learning and that's when you start getting better. And as the subject, I think, will always progress. And if you're not progressing with it, then you'll kind of get left behind.
Like, I want to say this too. Like, I'm not saying that having a mentor or a teacher is a bad thing. Like, on the contrary, I think it's really can like amplify somebody's momentum, like really exponentially, and propel them to achieve like a focused goal. However, I believe that the best way to learn is through experiences and deriving lessons from actions and reactions that take place. Like the old saying, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So
right, and I think the mentor's job is to kind of like lead you to that water, right?
Yeah.
So you start to say, I want to learn something. Where's the water? Sometimes you gotta get people to help you.
Well, when I think about it, you don't even necessarily have to like search out specifically for a mentor. Like a mentor can just become a mentor unspokenly.
Right.
Like it could be your father.
That's the best way
to have a mentor.
Is have it unspoken.
Unspoken.
Yeah.
You just learn from somebody's actions and somebody's viewpoints.
Right. And and nowadays with technology, it can be somebody that you don't even personally know.
Yeah.
Like I know people who would consider Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, to be like one of their mentors.
Gary V.
Yeah. I mean, he's just so out there. But what I like about him is that in a way that he tries to connect with people. So he doesn't just say like get motivated. He's like, and he doesn't just say like,
Gary from Sales Development?
No. So he's totally he has like 200,000 people subscribe to him on YouTube, right? He's a big marketing guy. I think Budweiser is one of his clients. Mm-hmm. But he actually he has a daily show called Gary V Daily with Gary or whatever. He's like in episode 200. But he tries to actually give you tangible like things that you can do to either make more money or get more recognition or better yourself to personally grow. And I think that's what's really cool is that essentially whether he's conscious of it or not, he's mentoring people. I think he is. Oh yeah, he totally is, right? But he doesn't go out there and say like, "All right, guys, I'm a mentor online."
But that was your point. Kyle's point. Like you can't force the horse to drink the water, but you can show him how. Right. And that can be unspoken.
And you as yourself, you have to take the last step, which, is taking the sip of water in that metaphor, or, but whatever the action may be in your current situation, And like you were saying with that guy, like he doesn't proclaim that he's a mentor. Kind of, I'd been listening to a lot of Anthony Robbins stuff too. And he's like, "I'm not your guru,"
Yeah,
he's like, "I'm just trying to change your mindset," Or,
it's all about the mindset.
The
mindset
train
is so
yourself
powerful.
into certain habits.
So in the past couple of weeks, you said, you just kind of like really, you've always been self-taught, but you just recently learned the definition or the actual word of being self-taught. So how does that, like in the past few weeks, shape your view of like living and teaching yourself new things?
I mean, really, it's been helping me a lot with the blog and just trying new things, going out of the comfort zone and doing the thread on, the restaurant, and then working together. I have another guy that just joined, Anthony Prince, and he's been doing some great stuff with me. Together, we did our first contest giveaway and created a whole campaign across all of the social media outlets and as well as the blog, and then promoted the show for his band, The Night Shift, Corroy Cobra, and Trash Panda. They're kind of new on the block, which is I guess is a raccoon. I realize. So if you look at a picture of a raccoon, I guess you'll see what I'm talking about. But,
Trash Panda.
But yeah, and then that show. Other campaigns before, kind of did all right, but it was hard to tell. This show, working together with somebody else, this is the first time we've both done something like this. The show ended up selling out, and then
wasn't it over capacity?
We got over capacity, yeah.
It didn't just sell out. There was too many people
with
there. It was a fire hazard.
Over the social media outlets, we had. We were giving away a CD from each band, 2 tickets to the then sold out show, and some other merch, and all you had to do was just like the page and share it, and we ended up getting almost 3,000 views on it.
Wow! So you guys had over
quadrupled,
shares. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with
quadrupled anything we had ever done prior to that.
So doing those things by marketing those shows and all that things you just explained, that was. You were self-teaching yourself. You were figuring out as you were going. And you were using things that you've done in the past to help you along that process. Yeah,
and this past year, because it kind of, once you decide that you want to do something, it takes a while for it to start snowballing. Like you really got to, I realized that, you really got to put in a lot of work. A lot of times people will hear stories about, these successful people, and a lot of people think it just happens every night, but it really doesn't. You really got to put in a lot of work. And so like over this past year, I've just been learning. I didn't know anything about blogs, or I'd been playing in bands and but hadn't really been doing scale promotions and things of that sort, especially for anything outside of music. So getting to those other genres of art was really, it's just really been a great experience overall. And my favorite part is meeting other people and talking to them about what they're doing and getting them excited about, having more people's eyes in the community on their stuff. And that's why I like it, like the aspect of kind of it not being me, like having everyone who's coming together and helping out Funky Duck Threads. Like they're just as as much a part of it as I am.
Right, that's that collective part that
Yeah.
you had when you were trying to create a collective conscience.
Mm-hmm.
So I said it right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so Cal, I've known you pretty much my entire life, and so I've known that you've been an autodidact, and more than just starting your blog and everything. There's a lot of cool things that you've done. So I want to talk a little bit about like starting with rugby. You started a rugby team.
Mm-hmm.
You were an influencer in a fraternity. You started a band, actually 2 bands. You're in a 3rd band. You started this blog. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things. Like, you're a self-starting person.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's essentially part of being what an autodidact is a self-starting person. Like, being able to be internally motivated and not motivated by things like money, right? But by being a collective person doing awesome things with other people.
Yeah, for the experience and for the benefit of the group as a whole, instead of just like trying to turn a profit or anything like that.
So let's start like from the beginning, like some of the earlier stages of stuff. Like, I don't know if you've had anything before rugby. Like, give us some examples about yourself as an autodidact.
I mean, I guess in high school, I played football and wrestled, and then when I found out about rugby, I was like, oh, it's like a combination between both of those.
Right.
But had no earthly idea really how to play.
Yeah.
I just knew that I was going to Georgia College.
And you actually reached out to me and asked me if you were like, is there anywhere I could practice with people and I can learn how to play rugby?
Yeah, I started telling people that I was starting a rugby team before I even knew how to play. I was starting a rugby team at Georgia College before I played or knew how to
my
play.
favorite part about you starting a rugby team at GCSU is that your mom kept telling people you started a lacrosse team at GSCU. Oh my God,
yeah, that was a little bit embarrassing when that would happen.
Sorry,
and that's why they changed. I think that's why they changed Georgia College and State, because all the moms were saying it wrong.
Yeah, so now it's just Georgia College.
Now it's just Georgia College.
Whatever that school is over in Milledgeville, maybe crazy insane asylum.
But
dude, Milledgeville, that insane asylum. All right, sorry.
That's a different story.
No, my brother has though.
It is creepy.
He didn't even go inside because like some.
They have a lot of dead like oak trees outside, and there's just a big row. Because part of the hospital is actually still working. It's still like in action. The newer part, and it's definitely scaled down. But the big buildings were used to do all the crazy lobotomies.
Well, maybe next Halloween we'll have an episode about Central State Hospital, and we'll actually go there and have some live video.
Well, you have to like sneak in there. They had to like take this little back.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't record us actually.
Anyways, your mom messed up the college name.
Back to rugby and back to routine.
Yeah, so got to Georgia College. I really just, even from day one orientation before I even moved to Milledgeville, I was asking people about it. And what really motivated me was that I was talking to, I think, Bert Rosenberger.
He's in charge of intramurals.
In charge of intramurals and
club sports.
He had actually played at Georgia Southern and was real into it. And then was like, yeah, I think somebody else was talking about that too. So I don't know if that was true. It could have been Noel, because I had talked to Noel about starting it, and he was my roommate freshman year. So
he was
my random roommate freshman year,
and he played rugby in high school.
And he played rugby for a men's club in Augusta in high school. So that ended up working out.
That's awesome.
But I didn't know that until
more than a coincidence.
Yeah, it was fate.
It's fate.
Yeah, it was fate. Yeah. And so me thinking that somebody else wanted to start a rugby team lit a fire under my ass. I was like, oh shit, I gotta start this rugby team before anybody else does.
Yeah.
You wanted to be the pioneer of
rugby at Georgia State.
Yeah, and
or was it Georgia State? Yeah.
Georgia College and State University.
That's why it's just Georgia College now.
Yeah, so you wanted to be the pioneer of this rugby team.
Yeah, and I really just started talking to people about it, and everything just started falling in place. I can't really explain it. That like even today I kind of reminisce about how fluid it was to get it started, because it was literally things were just falling in my lap. After talking to Cody Bounds, who ended up being my big brother in my fraternity there, introduced me to Joel Seagraves, that everybody knows as Farley, and he had just moved back from
Georgia Southern.
From Georgia Southern,
Yeah,
and was the coach mentor or coach.
He was the captain.
Captain and coach.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Of Georgia Southern, and they're a player coach team.
Yeah.
And so once I got introduced to him, here I was a total amateur, showing up at Georgia College, never played before. And then he helped me turn it into a successful collegiate club that's, still up and running right now, six
started in 2011.
2000.
5 years. 5 or 6 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
2010
Kyle's been on for 3 or 4 years, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty
So
cool.
you started that was your legacy. You
Yeah,
started
a
a
little
huge
bit.
movement.
That's and
You not only just started it, but you inspired it.
Mhm.
You planted the seed, and now it's this tree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. There's a lot of kids who have been through our program. I mean, like probably 200 or 300 by now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool. And the thing is, you started it not ever playing rugby before. You were lucky to have a random roommate who played rugby, and then you met, Farley, who just happened to be this guy that had a bunch of, time on his hands to come out to practice on Tuesday and Thursdays and teach a bunch of people rugby.
Yeah, and you really taught us everything we needed to know, and at the end of the day, we had to individually decide if we were going to put the lessons into action, playing in the match. And some people didn't end up playing. Some people didn't want to go in, they didn't stick with the program. But that's the same sort of subject of leading the horse to the water.
Right.
But you need to put in that last step, and with rugby, it's really gaining that live experience, because you can talk about rugby all day to somebody, and they'll get just as much out of that as playing 5 minutes on the pitch,
Oh, no. Playing 5 minutes on the pitch is totally undescribable, right? So I feel like just because you come to practice, that's great. But until you actually play a full game, once you play a full game, you are going to be hooked, right? If you have fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a couple of people that get on there and they're like, wow, rugby's really intense. and that's the truth. But if it's for you, you're going to be hooked as soon as you play, right? You got to start,
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where everybody can kind of show you the ropes, but it's definitely a learning curve, and you have to kind of, like Kyle said, take those steps and really get involved and keep going.
So that makes me think that, obviously you've been a mentor to people. We were talking about having mentors, unspoken mentors. I think highly that there's people out there that you are their unspoken mentor for sure.
I would agree with that. Some of the kids on the rugby team I can list off.
Yeah, that's kind of Kyle Denis as a mentor for sure, without you even knowing.
That's kind of funny for me to think about, because, I think you're right. I don't normally think about it in that aspect. I'm just kind of a medium to
right.
transcend somebody else's teaching to a new person.
You're
a good leader because it's by example, right? You don't walk around and say, I'm a leader, guys. Everybody listen to me. It's just all example. And I wanted you to go ahead and talk about how Farley taught you
I was going to say
was more than just a rugby coach.
Yeah, so Farley, he was putting a lot of time into the team. He was teaching us about rugby, but he was teaching us really how to coach and run the team on our own. And in his mind, he knew that he would only be there for a few months. All of us kind of thought he'd just kind of be there forever, because that's what we like to think. But he was teaching us to be self-sufficient and an autodidact in our own right, without even presenting it as presenting it in that way. And when he left and went back to work full time, we taught ourselves how to play, coach, and fundraise through our experience. And, so not only me, but, everybody else on the team had to kind of give themselves a self-taught lesson in being self-taught. And we didn't know how to do most of it, but we just went for it and, learned from there, setting up a bank account, setting up basically a nonprofit organization, a 501c3, I started learning about tax forms, how to like really truly raise money, how to organize events, how to really the biggest thing is organizing people and schedules. That was the hardest thing, whether it be practice and people in Milledgeville to other teams when we do the 30 Deep Roots tournament every year and have a huge, our biggest rugby event at the same time as
6 or 7 teams.
Milledgeville's biggest
each
event.
Team have like 15 players on the field at once. They have like really like 20 to 30 people on the team. So it's like 200 people like and having to handle that.
And while Milledgeville is having the biggest event of the year for them as a city too.
Right.
Which is it can be pretty stressful at times. Man.
I think the first year we took over like an entire bar.
Yeah, it really did because all the other teams would definitely want to come for the after party.
Right.
Because after, in rugby you kind of beat the crap out of the person on the opposing side, and then right after the match ends, then you shake hands and you go have a beer with them, and become and then you become best friends, and you're like rugby brothers.
It makes you look forward to playing them again too.
Yeah, and you can see them in any other city, and you'll remember them.
Well, see, I personally felt left out of the rugby world the past like 2 episodes. Your episode, and also our Rion Garforth Ventures episode, because he was a rugby player too. But, I never personally played rugby, but, I mean, it does sound very intense. Personally, I don't think I can handle it. I think that you guys outweigh me in a good way by, like, at least 15...
By weight?
By weight, yeah. I'm a lot more... I'm tall, but I'm a lot more scrawnier. So I don't think I would have really lasted long.
But that's the great thing about rugby is that there's a position for every size person. Like, you'd be a back, and... you'd be sized up against other people that are your size.
Oh, okay. So I wouldn't be getting tackled by somebody like Ethan, right?
Yeah, not unless you go inside and
maybe sometimes.
If you stick to the game plan, then no. But it's sometimes the game plan doesn't work out.
It's chaos.
Yeah,
sometimes it's just pure chaos.
I'm sure I would be able to handle it for like a game, and then after that, I'd be like you were talking earlier. Like I don't know if I want to continue to get my shoulder dislocated or.
I mean, we have had guys about your size play, and
I'm sure.
It's true that like the life expectancy of a skinnier player is probably a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm like 155. What do you guys think?
I'm about
250.
Yeah, see, that's
a buck and another buck and a buck and a half.
A little bit more substantial.
Yeah.
No, but anyway, so
reeling back in to finish off what like Farley taught me overall, not just with like rugby. I guess the point I want to resonate is that teaching yourself to become an autodidact will like really intrinsically solve the problem of needing a teacher, because you'll learn to teach yourself on your own. And I think it also gives you a sense of freedom to learn on a much broader scale, which can be good or bad. I think a lot of entrepreneurs work in this way. And Farley didn't just teach me how to play rugby. He taught me how to, not keep all your eggs in one basket and like be realistic. Like at the time, I wanted to be a professional rugby player. I realize it's not a realistic goal now. So like what it taught me was to be dynamic and to learn and how to deal with anything that comes at me and learn in my own way. And, I think that helped me get into, Georgia Tech, like working on the startup that I worked on after I graduated. And then, when that kind of failed horribly, but I learned a lot, especially about the Atlanta tech startup scene, and then into kind of my own thing, turning my blog into more of an organization, and into like a movement, kind of like what you're saying too, like that it's kind of all culminating to like coming to a head, I feel like, and actually getting a chance to bring other people together that wouldn't otherwise meet.
Right.
And even like with this podcast, this is the first podcast that I've done, but even at the sold out show at Smithsonian Bar, the person that won the ticket giveaway, I wrote up this little Excel like auto generator for the contest, and then the person who won ended up. She does Always Love, and it's kind of like I didn't get the full sense of it, but the little bit that I talked to her, it's like a promotional organization similar to Funk It Up Threads, but they do podcasts as well. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is like
that's actually
all
really
coming
cool.
together.
Probably kind of like Jabberjaw.
And
like what Trip was talking about.
I meant to tell you this when it happened, but like I was like, yeah, you got to go on Ethan's podcast, and then they'll go on your podcast. And she's like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
and,
that's a really cool idea. I always love, but it's promotional, right? So
yeah.
The idea is that it's all about love and getting more exposure for other people, which is I think a lot about what the people in our space, right? Creating content, helping each other grow. That's what we're all about too.
Yeah, and like not settling and just keep pushing yourself and keep music and arts alive in everybody's lives.
One of the essences
try to get a little sappy on
of what I've kind of learned is like there's a lesson around every corner for you, and you should look for those lessons essentially. Like figure out what each situation in life is trying to teach you. There's like a saying, I don't fail, I only learn. Right? You either win or you learn. Right? You either succeed or you learn. So that's something that I think we can kind of get out of this about being a person who is an autodidact.
Yeah.
Always looks for the lessons and things.
Yeah, and this goes back for like thousands of years. Since I heard it, like it keeps on coming up. And like, what's the word that you were using earlier?
Conscience?
No, like how.
How
once you observe something.
Oh, okay. It's called a reticulating activator. So I don't really know exactly the definition of it, but it's the idea that like when you get a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere. Yeah. Right? It's once something's in your mind, it starts popping up a lot more.
So, and then I was reading this book that you actually gave me a while ago. The 15 lessons for
15 valuable laws of growth.
Yeah, something to that extent. And in the book, he was talking about like how experience or the importance of experience as a learning mechanism, and it goes back to even like Julius Caesar, who's quoted at that. But he was like, that's only half the quote. You have to reflect on the experience to gain the growth.
Absolutely. You have to look back. That book was written by John Maxwell, and he's really big into leadership studies and stuff. And he definitely talks about that reflection. I know somebody who actually knows John Maxwell and works with him. He's a business leader, and every so often he'll go on a trip to the mountains, and he'll just. I mean, he runs a huge organization, but he just leaves and he goes and he reflects and he just goes for a week. And he reads and just sits and thinks and writes and then he comes back and it's like a sense of renewal, but like a sense of understanding what's happened in his own life so that he can come back more prepared. You have to step back every now and then. Yeah. To kind of
which that's the hardest part to do.
To see all those lessons.
And it's only hard because like you're disinvolving yourself from what you've been so involved in.
You're disengaging yourself so that you can evolve.
Right.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
you're kind of like putting yourself back.
Well, it's hard to disconnect sometimes too, especially nowadays. And even I'm bad with it too. Like if I don't have my phone for a day, it's I'm thinking about that the whole time. I don't have my phone. Like somebody calling me, or I'm not getting this message, or somebody's trying to reach out, or something like that. But it's really that's the best time to reflect, is to just get rid of everything. For even just like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. Right.
Kind of just, I think a lot of it is really
which is like meditation
on the moment, right? Or just being mindful.
Being mindful, yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge another topic that we could dive into. But that's for another day. Something that I think is cool that we've talked about before is having our guests on multiple times. So we'd love to have you back and maybe talk about that definitely. Also, and then another thing
talk about more music stuff.
Yeah, definitely talk about music stuff.
Or about how because a lot of the early recordings that King Coda did, like we were recording it ourselves, which we didn't know how to do. We were just figuring it out. Right. We had Joe McGrath, who was at SAE, the sound audio, engineering school, but he was still learning while we were recording, so learning that
Well, also, I
process.
wanted to tell you, since you are in a band, last week we had Trip Durden on, and he's a part of this podcast called Locals Only, where he has local bands on.
I've heard of that.
Oh, have you? Cool. So I can, he's been a friend of mine for almost my entire life, so I can get you guys, you and your band on.
Yeah.
See, it's happening right now. So this is what we like to do is introduce people who need to know each other.
Yeah. That way you could go and do another podcast with the whole band and
well, right now,
experience too.
I should say this because King Coda is on a hiatus for a little bit. Without a drummer, we're kind of regrouping, but I just recorded an album with my other band, Ego Aside, and that should be coming out in the next, hopefully before the end of the year, but maybe by the beginning of the new year. And everybody's local to Atlanta, and everybody kind of plays in a couple of different bands, so it's kind of cool. It's kind of everybody's side project, but really kind of coming up into a major project.
Might become everybody's main project.
Yeah, and just the whole idea of Ego Aside kind of plays into all these other mediums that we're performing.
Yeah, our first guy, Anthony Kinnell, his media brand is Nation of Nobody, and their tagline is Art Without the Ego.
Mm-hmm.
So that is cool. Like I was bringing that up to you earlier, Ego Aside. It's a really cool name because it's not about you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've got your social media stuff, Funkadelic Threads. They can find you on Facebook. You're at Funkadelic Threads on Instagram too, right?
Yeah, so basically if you look up Funkadelic Threads on
any platform,
any of the platform, Facebook, Instagram,
Snapchat?
No, I don't do Snapchat. But I think on Twitter we're Funky Threads ATL because Funkadelic Threads there's too many letters.
Yeah.
And then the blog is funkadelicthreads.wordpress.com, which we had recently transitioned from the original blog, which is Collective Conscience ATL. So now we've morphed into one and building our team and really going, trying to go full force with the full head of steam and get this train moving.
Cool, man. Congratulations with everything. We all love it, and we want to see more of it. So, Kyle, thanks for coming on our show.
Cool. High fives.
Any last words?
I hope that everybody listening got some sort of metaphor out of what we were talking about and learned something. We'll be back again next Thursday.
Yep.
Thanks again, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
That was a good episode.
That was awesome.
All right, take it easy, y'all.
First podcast in the books.
Nice.